This is the farthest way of home I've ever been.
Welcome back to another episode of Lotro Talk. This is King Baron with the Royal Scribe Tal. We have a very special guest today, Findale. We're going to go over what he does, who he plays as, where he's at, and changes into Helm's Deep along with the Berg changes.
Just want to say welcome to the show. It's a pleasure and an honor to have you joining us today. Yeah, we're pretty much just gonna dive right into this. We kind of want to get your actually let's just start with your overview of your Lotro career thus far, and just kind of paint us a picture before we go into any of the details.
A beautiful picture.
Yeah, certainly. Thanks for the invite, guys. Appreciate it. I'm Findale, Burglar of originally Silverlode, and transferred over to Elendilmere. Let's see, that was last year-ish sometime, just before the first Rohan expansion. Transferred the Berg and the Minstrel over there to be a part of the Praying Mantis revival, which then ended up falling apart. But originally, let's see, all the way back to the start of open beta. I was in a couple of smaller kins, started out in a kin with just some real-life friends that were all playing the game together. Moved from there to another kind of smallish kin that kind of helped me accomplish more of what I wanted to accomplish within the game, and then moved from there up to an old kin called Exile. That was an old raiding kin that disbanded some time ago, and moved from there to there and back again, which I spent the better part of my playing time here on Silverlode, and eventually ended up as leader of. Another kin that has kind of dwindled away as people quit the game for various reasons, or just stopped raiding, and so now playing primarily over on Elendilmere with my main over there.
Now, when you were leading Taba, when was that? What was the time frame?
Let's see. I want to say I joined Taba somewhere around, that was probably about sometime during Moria, and then I became leader of Taba sometime right around the time DN was put in, I think, somewhere around there.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I'm just trying to figure out, the time frame, because that used to be one of the better
That was
kins
prime
on the server.
time. Yeah.
Yeah, in our glory days, we were running 2 simultaneous Watcher raids. We would actually have races between the 2 raids. We'd field 2 groups at the same time.
I remember hearing about that, yeah.
Yeah, and see who could finish up first. And we were almost to the point of being able to add a third. We were at 2 groups plus usually about 6 or 8 extra people on at a time, kind of at our peak there.
So moving right along, you obviously play the Berg, and I'm sure you were amazing Burglar before Helm's Deep. How are the changes after? Is it are you pleased with them, with the changes? I don't know. I've never played the Berg really at all, so this is all your expertise.
Yeah. There's some changes that were good. There's some things that were added that I really like, and then there's a lot of things that were taken away, I think, like as is the case in most classes, things that people considered kind of an iconic sort of identity of their class that were taken away and buried within one specific trait tree. For instance, for the Burglar, tricks are pretty much one of the standard, Burglar items. That's one of our unique identities, and all the tricks were taken away and buried within the yellow line, and you can get 1 or 2 fairly easily with only a couple points, but they're still way tucked over in that yellow line that you used to have all of your tricks, and you just kind of used whichever trick benefited you more for whatever you were doing at the time, be it counter defense most of the time for the extra incoming crit chance for DPS, or disable in raids was always nice for less incoming damage. But now a lot of that's just buried down in the yellow line. Yellow line, however, has some interesting mechanics to it now, with including like group heals and stuff. Ran a run the other night with 4 Bergs in it, and we had a couple traded from each line actually, and the yellow line Bergs are actually able to almost kind of off group heal as well as a captain used to with Rallying Cry. I've got
Interesting.
a little extra group heal now. So there's some interesting stuff in there. Quiet Knife, the red line that I've basically run ever since Moria and have never traded out of it, has some real nice DPS enhancements to it. There's traits that just outright increase crit chance by a percentage up to like 5%, and there's some other interesting little synergies now that that make the DPS play or rotation, a little more interesting. Skills that reduce the active cooldown of Feint Attack, which is a skill that buffs our damage and then can be used up to apply a from stealth effect to a skill that has an effect from stealth. So that used to be, you needed a legacy to get the cooldown of it down to 15 seconds, and now the cooldown of it is 15 seconds just right off the bat. You don't need the legacy anymore, and it crits from other skills will reduce the active cooldown on that, so you can actually pop it a lot more often than just every 15 seconds. So that it kind of adds another little depth of how to build a good DPS rotation in terms of getting it, keeping the buff up, and then using the buff to execute a from stealth skill right before you can put Feint back up again to keep that extra damage buff up.
So it sounds like you're relatively pleased with the changes. It sounds like they've made it to where it's a lot more, you have more maneuverability within the game in terms of changing your playstyle, and without really destroying the DPS build that you really liked before. Is that?
Yeah, I mean it's just a different way of looking at the DPS, really. It's more now about flat-out DPS, whereas before it was more about, getting tricks up and using various buffs and stuff in order to increase your DPS. Now it's just about, trading to give you the most flat-out DPS that you can get, at least as far as Redline goes, instead of having to put, different buffs up and stuff like that.
Well, it sounds like you adapted really well. How's the rest of any other Bergs that you know, or anybody on the server or friends? Have the overall server, have they adapted really well? Would you say, has it helped? Does everybody like it? Would you say?
Yeah, I mean, as terms as well, do they like it? That's kind of a tough question to answer, but it's everybody pretty much agrees that Redline DPS is significantly increased. And I think any DPS class in their DPS line has seen that happen as well, since a lot of the numbers have increased exponentially for this expansion. Yeah, there's still a few diehards that insist that Gambler Line is the most awesome thing out there. I don't know. I still gotta try it sometime. Gambler Line's kind of always been the redheaded stepchild of the Berg tree.
Nice, yeah.
There's always been a few people that insisted, that it was awesome, and pretty much everybody else, has always gotten Gambler Line. Yeah, no.
The class changes set aside, how did you like Helm's Deep as a whole, as an expansion?
The expansion itself was pretty decent as far as endgame content. Yeah, I'm right there in the camp of people who are very disappointed that there's no, traditional style instance cluster with this. I'm enjoying the big battles for now, but I can see already that they're going to get old and boring pretty quick.
Yeah.
I mean, there's some interesting new mechanics in them to kind of make it, the new G-Wiz thing. And, as I get ranked up, especially in the engineer tree, and start friggin' lobbing catapults out there and watering mobs with them and watching them fly around, it's kind of fun, but overall I think that'll probably wear off fairly quick, and it'll be back to just a grind for gear.
Yeah, and that's kind of, Turbine has a track record with this, introducing something that's really cool for a few months and then gets really, really old really, really fast. I mean, we saw it with, when skirmishes came out. We saw it with the mounted combat when that came out, so...
I'm hoping that they'll introduce, some new instance clusters. I think that it would be in their best interest to do that. But, this big battle system was quite a big deal, and I'm sure it did take a lot of manpower and resources to do that, so, kudos for that. But some new instances would be good too.
Yeah, fixing all the bugs in the big battles would be good too. This has been one of the, well, not one of the, I would say this has been the least polished expansion to date that I have seen. I mean, there's been some stuff before where there were, glaring bugs or giant fiascos with server issues at release and stuff like that, but there's never been a expansion before, to my memory, that has just the multitude of little stuff that's, between bugs and things that just were either overlooked or not finished or they didn't have time for or whatever. There's a lot of little stuff. Like, for instance, the auction house does not yet have categories for Tier 9 crafting recipes listed. So if you're trying to search for a specific craft and you want to look at the Tier 9 recipes, there's no way to easily do that unless you put in, a search string for every possible combination. And there's all kinds of bugs in the big battles where mostly with like AI and pathing issues in there that get really annoying, because in order to get the best rewards from a platinum medal, you have to keep all your soldiers alive. Well, if a couple of soldiers run off and get stuck somewhere where they're just getting slaughtered, and you don't notice it in time, and well, you can't do anything for them anyway, then then you lose your platinum medal for no reason other than an AI or pathing issue. It's kind of annoying.
That's one of the main issues I have with the big battles, is that sometimes not getting that platinum there's nothing you can do. You know what I mean? Like, there's nothing you could have did differently for you to get that platinum. It's just something that, was just happened out of your control.
Yeah, and
that's just it.
Glittering Caves too.
Oh yeah, Glittering Caves is just a mess. But right before we got together here, I was running a Helm's Dike run, and we had the side quest where the big fire spewing war machine comes up to the gate. Well, all of a sudden there was a couple of orcs that jumped down from up top, and then there were a couple of NPC soldiers that jumped down and followed them. Well, those NPC soldiers then don't go back up top, they just get stuck down there. And so we had, a couple of NPCs that were stuck down there and not helping out killing mobs that were coming up in the normal waves, which then left them, undermanned at that particular point. We ended
Weakened,
up losing
yeah.
other soldiers because of it. So.
Have you ever had the glitch where it would start an extra side quest, but then the main instance would be finished in the middle of the side quest, so you don't even get to try to finish it?
Yep, I've had that one as well.
Yeah,
that seems to be more of an issue
funny.
of as you get ranked up further, and you're able to chew through the main formations for the main progress of the instance faster, then it reduces the amount of time that you end up having to complete that last side quest.
No, I can see why the big battle system made sense. We're at the point in the lore where they kind of have to put in the big battles because it's a huge part of the lore. There's these massive battles, and we obviously want to be a part of them. I'm hoping that this isn't going to be the meat of content from this point on. I think we'll still have the big battles just to go in with the lore of having those big battles around and stuff like that. But I'm hoping that they're also going to put in some just some normal instance dungeon content that was lacking on this expansion.
Yeah, I agree lore-wise that something had to be done as far as a way to show the true scope of the war that's out there, and especially when it comes to Helm's Deep. Helm's Deep and Pelennor Fields are going to be something that's going to
massive,
be something
yeah.
of this scope. Yeah, but yeah, I agree. I'm hoping there'll be some instances as well in a future update before the next full expansion. I just hope there will be an actual level 95 raid put in at some point that we can do before the next expansion.
And there's one topic I kind of wanted to bring up for this video. We got a comment on one of our videos saying that from this person who watched a lot of our interviews, saying that it kind of seems like we are always turbine bashing and always looking at the negatives and never talking about the positives. And that kind of took me by surprise because I didn't think we were intentionally doing that. Turbine has done some good stuff, but it just seems the good stuff is kind of overshadowed by the lack, the lack of stuff that they could be doing. I mean, how do you feel about that, Finn? I mean, is the good stuff overshadowing the bad stuff at this point, or?
Yeah, I mean, there's plenty of good stuff they keep doing with the game. The whole class revamp, I was a big fan of that just from the get-go, from the overall concept of it, which was to reduce the total number of skills that needed to be spread across your umpteen bars at any given time. And the way they did it, well, there was, I'm sure, a multitude of ways they could have done it. The way they did it, it takes some getting used to and some adaptation, but it's kind of a reboot and a reset to a point that we can then build on again. Because really, at every expansion, if they keep giving you a new skill or two, or three or four at every expansion, then you just end up back in the same place we were, where you have this giant multitude of skills, which every one of them has a use at some point, but it becomes a huge clutter of skill bars that you have to be able to do anything at any given time. Versus now, it seems a little watered down to where you're playing a specific role and you're not really doing much other than that role. DPS classes are basically just DPS, or if you're traded for heals, then you're basically just going to heal.
And do you find that kind of frustrating? Because I know Bergs are kind of in the same boat as Lore Masters. We had we had many roles we were filling in a group at one given time. I know Bergs were very, very underrated, and they were all really awesome to have in a group. Do you find yourself kind of missing that, being able to make choices on the fly and be able to do different roles?
Yeah, it's there's definitely a loss in terms of versatility there. Especially like you said for Bergs and Lore Masters, because we were a couple of the classes that really had the most available to us in terms of different stuff that we could do to fit a given situation at any time, really. And some of that versatility has been taken away to where you're locked into playing the role of whatever you're traded as. But with the perspective of somebody who's been here for every expansion, it's a new building point that we can then build on. Back with the Moria expansion, they gave us a whole bunch of new stuff, and everybody was very happy with it because it added some new dimensions to some classes and built on the the identities of those classes as they were established in Shadows of Angmar, and it was great, except that there was so much that they added with the Moria expansion that they couldn't keep up that pace. Otherwise, by 2 or 3 expansions down the road, then we'd be so overbloated with skills that they wouldn't even fit on all of the bars that are available within the game. So then they started focusing more on giving us improvements to existing skills in the expansions after that, which added some interesting features to those skills, and some new synergies to where different skills would buff other skills or whatever. So they kind of moved to that different format. Well, now with this reboot, to where they've wiped a whole bunch of skills off the board, and we have empty skill bars again, they're back to the point of being able to build on that. It's like, okay, so now we've done the reboot, the cleanup from all of the stuff that we've been adding and adding and adding and adding. Now we have kind of a clean slate again, and now we can start building again in maybe a little bit more controlled manner.
Another thing I was thinking about was I have a lot of interest of going back and doing all the old content, on level. I kind of want to level a tune to maybe 50 level lock there and just bang out some of the older content. I started realizing that with these new skill trees, is that going to affect how that older content is ran? I mean, as far as the strategy and the ways that we used to do the fights.
Yeah, you give me an awesome opportunity here for a shameless plug of my little pet project. I've started a campaign around Elendilmere called Raiders of the Lost Content, which our purpose is to do exactly that. Level characters to 50, use the XP disablers to keep them there, and run the old raids, starting with Heligrad and the Rift at level 50. And once we've had our fill of that, we'll take the XP disablers off, level up to 60, and run the Watcher and DN. And that's one of the things I'm looking forward to seeing, is how the whole class revamp really affects the strategies and how we run those old raids, because we've gone through a lot of changes since those raids came out. I mean, there's the most current is the whole class revamp, but back a while back when they removed stat caps and changed basically the whole mechanics of how stats work, there's that change that's been made as well from back in the old days when captains actually wanted a few pieces of will gear for the power, and
Right, yeah.
Bergs needed both might and agility and stuff like that. So it's I think it'll be interesting to see the effects of all that. And with the new class revamp, there's some interesting things that go with that too, because there's skills that were previously like Moria expansion skills that you wouldn't get until you were between 50 and 60 that are now granted at a much lower level, if not right off the bat as one of your basic skills. And the legendaries from the level 45 class quests, several of those are just granted right off the bat without having to complete the class quest for them. So people will have a little bit more in their repertoire as far as skills that they wouldn't otherwise have had, but then they'll be missing other skills that were taken away. So I'm looking forward to seeing how it works out.
That sounds like fun. I mean, I'm totally right there with you, man. I would love to get a group together and just do that old content at level, because it's going to be totally different, because with all these changes and stuff, I think it would be really fun to just do some, because it's pretty much going to be kind of like new content, because I mean things are different now as far as skills and whatnot, so it's going to be definitely some really good fights.
Totally
Yeah, all classes are going to play a little bit different than they used to, so I think it'll be really fun to go see how it plays out. I've got people coming in from various other servers, as well as people that are already based on Lendelmere that are coming over for it, so pretty much invite anybody that likes the idea to come check us out at lostcontent.guildlaunch.com. Maybe you guys can throw that as a link in the video or something.
Oh, sure. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, we'll plug that for you. That's a great idea, and yeah, I might have to make a tune over there. I'd totally be interested in that.
Yeah, we've got a few coming over from Silverload already, so.
I had a question. In the future, whenever they do expansions or whatever you want to call it, how are they gonna redo the tree? Are they gonna give you extra points? Do you think? I've been thinking about it, and I was wondering, would they increase the level, or would they give you access to more points for the tree? If so, how long would it be until they needed to add like another tier? You know what I'm saying? Or I'm trying to think of how they would do that.
Yeah, I would imagine most likely they will. Well, certainly you'll get more points, obviously, because there's the mechanic of simply getting one every odd level, and they may even add more opportunities to get other trait points, like they have with the quest line out in West Rohan. I'll also be interested to see whether that stays the way it is, because essentially, let's say several expansions from now, then you can level any way you want, but you still will have to go do the entire quest line for West Rohan in order to have all of the class trait points that you're supposed to have. So I'm curious to see if that will, survive the test of time and stay that way, or whether they'll come up with an alternate way of giving those trait points. But yeah, overall, I would say it's certainly going to be, you're certainly going to get more points, and I would think to balance that out, what they would more than likely do is continue to add traits to the trees as well, so that you're continuing to spend more traits or more points in your primary tree, and then still, only having a handful left over to spend in the other trees.
Do you PvP at all? I should ask that.
Yeah.
before.
Do you have a little wargie?
I have a spider that I've played basically ever since the beginning. Don't play it a whole lot. I'm certainly not a staple in the Edmores or anything, but I've got a little rank 9 spider that has been around since the beginning that I go play every now and then.
Do you ever go on your Berg?
I have not actually been out, well, not seriously anyway, with a free since, I don't know, maybe 65-ish.
Yeah, it's a little while, I'd say.
Yeah, I mean, there's just so much to do in this game that, as it is, I find myself spending a lot more time than I really should at it. But, it's just, you gotta pick what you're gonna do, and so free PvP was something that was always just kind of a real low back burner for me. If I'm going to go PvP, I tend to have a little more fun on a creep.
Gotcha. Well, as usual, I'm gonna ask if you could change, one, maybe two things that you would want to see. What would it be, like on the top of your list?
I don't know if you mean about the game as a whole or specifically about a burglar. Or,
Take your pick, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, one thing that's it's almost kind of relates to the game as a whole as well as just the burglar is I would like to see the return of conjunctions actually being effective.
Ooh, yeah.
It was not only a signature of the Burg, it was a signature of the game back in Shadows of Angmar and all the way up through Moria, as a matter of fact. If you had a group that was good enough to be able to hit some of the harder
conjunctions,
like Wings of the Windlord and stuff.
Yeah.
Then it really added to what you could do as a group. Versus, they've kind of gotten away from that and, made it to where you're relying on basically what every individual person in the group can do rather than, every now and then the group coming together to complete one of these maneuvers that, gives
most people say just DPS through it.
Nice buffs to us. Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely miss CJs. Back in the day, they were very, very useful.
That would make or break you.
Yeah, I mean, if I remember, some of that shit you needed to do, like the Watcher and shit, if that could save you from a wipe, is fucking hopping a CJ and getting it, yeah.
Yeah, that's just it, because there was a lot of content where, with, your typical one healer and a captain, it was really not enough healing to counteract the damage output of the content that was out there. So, you needed that extra healing and, debuffs from conjunctions to really help you out. Unfortunately, I understand kind of the reason that it's gone away from a lot of boss fights is because the conjunction stun could be used to break mechanics. So I wish there was a way they could come up with to solve that and still allow us to have conjunctions, without having them be able to break the mechanics that they want to actually occur.
I would just like to take this opportunity to say thank you for joining us. And if anyone on Lindomir is interested in Finn's rating group for the lower level content, we're going to be putting a link down in the comments. So if you just want to plug it one more time, Finn, for us.
Yeah, anyone from any server is welcome, really. We've got people coming in from Laurelin, from Brandywine, from several other different servers, all to roll some fresh tunes and get started over there. We've got a support network of people that have like maxed out crafters and stuff through all the professions, so it'll be a fairly easy start for people. You'll have people be able to craft stuff for you and help you out. Getting started quick over there. Kin's based on a Lendomir. It's called Raiders of the Lost Content. lostcontent.guildlaunch.com is the website. Still looking for somebody that's got some Photoshop skills to put me together a nifty banner for it. So if anybody does, definitely let me know.
That's awesome. Yeah, and we might have to have you back just to talk about some of those old fights and how the mechanics have changed.
We might be joining you too. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah, I think now is a good time to do it because there's kind of a lull in the level cap content that I think people are going to get burned out on fairly quick. So it'll just be something else fun to do on the side. Bring up a little tune, either something you've played before or something you've never played that you want to see how it goes, and we'll see how the new mechanics affect the good old content.
Well, like we said, we just want to thank you for coming out and being able to speak about the Burg and the changes. So we appreciate your time, and if you ever want to come back for something else, let us know. We're always available.
Yeah, thanks very much for having me, and yeah, hopefully maybe we can do an episode on the new mechanics in the Rift sometime.
Excellent.
And like always, guys, if you liked the video, make sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you like what we're doing here. And also feel free to put your comments down below, good or bad. We read them all. So thanks for watching.